Good morning and welcome to our July meeting. Hope everybody is doing a good summer. Though between current events here, I know we've probably all been regularly on RL Now and other local publications. A lot of news, a lot of good things happening that I know folks here at the table will be speaking about later this morning. And I would also say that within my world, the commercial real estate world, things seem to be quite busy as well, which for the summer certainly seems to be a good sign and hopefully a sign of better days to come. As always, I'd like to first open it up to the commission to see if anybody has any comments, questions, or feedback related to last month's meeting, which covered a number of updates and reports, including the CIP and legislative summaries given by Richard Stevenson and Brian Esty, respectively. Any comments, questions from the commission? Okay, can I have a first to approve the minutes? Steve Cooper, his last meeting. A second? Second, thank you, Brad. All in favor? Any abstentions? Okay, well, let's let the minutes show June being approved. Okay, so we have a fair amount to cover today as always, but I want to start just high level on a couple things, covering some current events and personnel updates here. So first up to my right, I would like to welcome Anna Nissanen to our first EDC meeting, who I believe you're in week 3 of your new role.
If you don't count July 4th, well, if you count July 4th, really the end of week 2. So yeah, just keep that in mind when I'm talking.
End of week 2. In her role as Chief Economic Development Officer and Director of Arlington Economic Development. You'll be hearing from Anna later this morning. And I was fortunate enough to have the pleasure of meeting her last week in an event. Very excited for the EDC and AED leadership to continue our partnership in effort to make a more robust economy. Welcome. We look forward to working with you. Next up, we have our 4th new commissioner over the past 3 meetings. I would like to introduce Keith Willis to our commission. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you.
Keith is a longtime Arlingtonian and currently serves as the Governance and Organizational Development Coordinator for the AFL-CIO. Welcome to EDC, Keith, and we look forward to your insights and contributions.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Nick.
And then finally, sadly, at least for us, but I was joking with him that he'd be able to hit the snooze button on Tuesday mornings going forward. This will be the last meeting we have with Steve Cooper as a commissioner here. I was finishing up his 2nd term and end of his 6th year here with the commission. Steve, I'll turn over to you here in a minute, but I would like to extend my gratitude to you for your service and your contributions. During my tenure here, you've always had extremely, great and thoughtful feedback and always willing to ask the right questions and sometimes the tough questions when they need to be asked. So I would like to thank you. And if you'd like to say a few things.
Well, thank you. I, as Elizabeth Taylor said to her 7th husband, I won't keep you long. I will say it's been a pleasure to be with you here for the last 6 years. We started off doing the Arlington Talent Program, which I want to remind everybody graduated 25 folks into new careers. And some of those folks are still, most of them are still in Arlington, some working for county government. And that has led now to a nearby county having its own talent program where I support that as well. That is Loudoun County. And so it led to even more folks changing careers. And I just want to make sure that people remember that workforce, sponsorship, apprenticeship, all of that is important. And ask yourself every day, who are you sponsoring? Who are you bringing into the workforce? And if we can do that, then we'll continue to remain the reasonable and resilient Arlington that we always have been. I've always loved living and working in Arlington because it's a place of reasonable people and resilient people. And I can't say how proud I am to be a resident and how excited I am for the future of Arlington in this commission. So thanks for letting me serve, and that's all I'll say.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. I can't say I would have thought Elizabeth Taylor would have been brought up during It's a first for everything, I suppose. JD?
Yes, I'm gonna be quick. Steve, if you can come to the center. So on behalf of, look, I've been knowing Steve for a little while, and every time I see Steve, he's full of energy. Life of the party, right?
That's right.
But I'm here to just present you with a small token of our appreciation from the county board. We will do something more formal and bring you into, yes, we will. But I'm gonna actually present this to you in front of your peers. You've been here 6 years. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Jay.
Just really grateful. So let me read this
Okay.
here. It is a certificate of appreciation presented by the Arlington County Board to Stephen Cooper. That is you, right?
That is me.
All right. With gratitude and in recognition of your service to Arlington County as a member of the Economic Development Commission from 2020 to 2026, signed Matt DeFerrante, Chair, Arlington County Board. Thank you for your service.
A few other things I'd like to cover before I turn it over to Meredith and Brad. First, there should be a copy in each of your packets of the letter the EDC submitted to the county board related to the proposed CIP. To my knowledge, this is the second time that we've provided a letter based on the CIP, at least within the recent history. But we did believe it would be an opportunity to provide feedback during our continued budget challenges. And we specifically, took this opportunity to reiterate a few key points, such as.
Sorry, real quick. It's not in your packet. I will email it to you after this meeting, including some of the other documents.
I do believe everybody was provided with.
Yes, it has, the draft did not change.
Okay, but just a couple things. We did focus on continuing to push forward on removing red tape and obstacles from development opportunities, which will lead hopefully to more housing opportunities within the county. Next, a homework assignment that you heard about a little bit last month, the legislative priorities. This is the time of the year where Arlington's commissions, have the opportunity to submit their priorities for consideration. If any commissioners have priorities they would like to share, please do so. And feel free to send any of that to me along with Jane and AAD staff by next, I think we're saying next Tuesday. July 21st, as there will need to be a package submitted by the end of this month. Any questions related to those? Yes.
Thanks, Nick, and apologize, I haven't had a chance to connect with JD and the board yet on this, but one thing I wanted to raise to the group's attention, that's an update since Brian's report last month, was we know that the budget was still being finalized at that point, and there were a few things we were watching as it pertained to local tax impacts. And long story somewhat short, the way that Metro's capital funding is funded is being put on the localities and giving the authorities the opportunity to increase local sales tax rates up to 1%. There's a provision by which it can include transit as well as schools. We've talked with a number of people in the community, the transit community, who think that given Arlington's budget, it's not likely to be able to come from general funds, so would need to come from this outside source. So it's something the chamber is starting to engage on. But I know we talked about as a group the possibility of that 1% transient occupancy tax on the hotels being part of the budget that got kind of put in there last minute. And when the conferees were working, that did not move forward. But however, unfortunately, that 1% tax would impact the hotels like Ben, but also the restaurants like Steve and Charles. Whereas we just had some challenges with the recent meals tax that then increases that tax rate on our local businesses. So we are very hopeful that we can engage with, my colleague John, who does government affairs for us, who's in the back, has been engaging with Brian Esty subsequently. This is all happening very quickly. WMATA didn't even know this was going to be the solution. So we are all working together to try to find if there's a way next session to get some of those general funds so it's not all put on the localities, forcing Arlington's hand to go that direction. But just especially given the small business impact, especially in our restaurants and retail as well as hotels, just wanted to flag that for this group.
And Kate, just for everybody's benefit, what specifically is being proposed?
So it is basically the, I can't remember don't quote me, but I would say it's about 35 million, John, if you remember, but. Okay, so that the localities will have to fund, starting 2 fiscal years from now, has to be done by the localities. So what, and this is getting wonky, I know, but what was put in the budget was the localities in Northern Virginia now have the opportunity to increase sales tax by 1%. It would require a referendum, however. So what's being considered is again a 1% sales tax increase that would impact Arlington. But I'm sure that, no, and I'm sorry to raise this before we've had a chance to connect, JD, but I know I'm sure it's on your mind as well, that you and your colleagues are looking at solutions. But I think that's one where hopefully we can all come up with something together. That's a stronger solution from our community, hopefully with some more support from our friends in the state.
Any other comments or questions before we move into our regular programming? Okay, Meredith, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks so much, Nick. And Kate, thanks to you as well for the helpful update. I just wanted to start by thanking Steve again for everything that you've done for our commission, keeping us apprised on workforce issues, development, and resilience, and also to welcome Keith to the EDC. Actually, Keith and I worked together years ago on labor and business issues together with the sort of shared maxim that healthy, productive businesses need happy workers, productive workers, and workers need healthy, productive businesses to thrive in Arlington. So, Steve, as you move forward, it's great, Keith, to have you with your expertise with us. We are going to hear from Paula Sorrell just after Rich Dooley's presentation on the Climate Action Plan, given Paula's liaison role with the county's climate action group. So thank you, Paula, for that. Kate and Brian, who are with the Workforce Investment Council, Jane will follow up with a PowerPoint presentation on the Q2 labor market update that I thought was quite interesting, a mix of, you could see elements of resilience, I thought, as well as some of the real risks that we've been discussing as a commission. So thank you very much for providing that as well, Kate and Brian. Sarah, you have an update on the Arts Commission.
Yes, I attended the Arts Commission meeting, I think it was June 22nd. I went ahead and printed out slides. But I was there as an observer, but also was fortunate enough to present on a project I've been working on with Embracing Arlington Arts, and that is really finding a way to have a performing arts center, a small one, is resilient and can work and is sustainable in Arlington County. So you'll see here, there's reasons to support something like this, economic reasons as well, that I won't go into, but the commission also discussed they just closed the deadline for their general operating services grants. That's grants both to individual artists and also group artists. So they are working on adjudicating those, and they'll have what they call the grant day, I believe sometime in late August, where anyone can listen in as they talk through the grant applications and decisions.
Great, thank you so much, Sarah. And then lastly, we have been apprised of an opportunity. If you are living or residing or working around this area, so Glebe Road, Ballston, Buckingham, commercial area, the county is setting up a working group comprised of county commissioners and community organizations as they undertake a Ballston Park and Buckingham commercial area planning study. So they're asking for an EDC rep. There would be 4 virtual meetings over the course of a little over a year, starting in September of this year and concluding in November of 2027. They're looking for 1 primary volunteer as well as an alternate, and the deadline for putting names forth actually later this week. So if you would consider volunteering, if you could just let me know, I would deeply appreciate it. And I would be happy to be the backup volunteer as well. I don't live in this area, but my kids are at WNL, so I'm in here all the time.
Is it comprised generally of a few folks that live here along with representatives of nations?
Yes, yeah. So it's both, well, there are, the county is asking for representatives of county commissioners. So the different CAGs as
The
well.
civic associations will also be represented.
Exactly. So I would love to have the EDC have a representation on the commission. But again, like if you have a natural tie to the area, that would be preferable. If you're just interested, I'm very much open to that as well too. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, Brad?
Yeah, sure. Just to your point, I live in Ballston and I also now work in Ballston, so I'd be interested if that's
Done.
open. And then Charlie also works and lives in Ballston, where he lives about a block down the street from me, so.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. All right, well, wait, well, we can put forth both your names in if that's okay.
I'd be open to that, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was easy.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think just this is going to be a quick update. Steve, thank you so much for your contributions and your service. I do believe, I was looking around the room, I think you might be the last person that was here when I joined back in 2021. So it's great to get to know you. Thank you again. And I wish you the best in sort of your next life. So not too much update. We're pretty good on the number of seats. We've got continuing applications that are coming in. They're actually pretty good quality. So thank you to anyone who made recommendations or referrals. We continue to sort of support that and hope you guys, reach out to your community members and see, quality people and see who we can get back on the board. We are going to have some additional roll-offs in the next 12 to 18 months, including myself. So we're always looking for good candidates. One other thing I'd like to mention is that we have, as you recall, we did an onboarding process. We're going to target one, I think, in October. And this isn't just for new members. This is for anyone who wants kind of a refresher on the EDC, everything around the EDC. So, we'll send out an email. And if you want to join, it's likely going to be just after the October meeting. So.
Yeah, I just want to, is Brad finished up here?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to back up for a second. First, Meredith, thank you for your, these are just my thoughts. I'm very interested, many may know long before I got into this role, this conversation surrounding the arts and the art of the possible and the potential, cultural arts center, whatever that may look like. I think there's some strong information here that points to where we need to seize this moment, I think, in time and look at what we said there. How can we find a spot somewhere in Arlington, central location for the arts? I think it's just the time is ripe, and I would hope that we can have some strong consideration there, and others to see what that may look like. Brad and Nick, I just want to commend you both on the governance aspect. We've had some long conversations over my year and a half here, and I think what we see here this morning is really a microcosm of the community. And so I'm greatly appreciative of your due diligence. I know it hasn't always been easy, but something I speak with my colleagues about is that our commission should be very reflective of our community. That's not only a diversity of thought, but also in skill sets. I really want to thank you for being open to that and for your leadership in that area. Okay.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the support. Okay, so that wraps up our opening business. And next, let's turn it over to Rich Dooley, Director of Climate Policy within the County Manager's Office. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you so much, Chair Gregorios, for the opportunity to provide you and everybody with an update on the county's ambitious initiative to develop its first comprehensive climate action plan. I have hopefully a short slide deck here that I'll go through and make my way through, and then hopefully allow time for Q&A. So also thanks to our EDC representative on our external advisory group, Commissioner Sorrell, who was mentioned earlier, for her work as well. We greatly value her perspective, as well as the perspective of everyone in this group that she gathers in helping us to develop the climate action plan. And thanks to Jane for facilitating to help me get on the agenda today. I'm Rich Dooley, Director of Climate Policy in the Climate Policy Office in the County Manager's Office here in Arlington County. This new plan is going to be building on the foundation of our existing community energy plan. That is currently an element of our comprehensive plan. And we plan to update and replace in that comprehensive plan this broader, more integrated approach to addressing climate change. Now, while the CEP has focused mainly on climate mitigation and some resilience measures, I've heard the word resilience and sustainability sprinkled in this morning, music to my ears. The CAP is going to expand on the scope to include additional sectors critical to achieving a sustainable and a resilient future here in Arlington, such as a circular economy as well as healthy ecosystems. Our overall project and our process to develop the climate action plan is synthesized on this slide. On the lower left-hand side is a logo. It says ACT, which stands for Arlington Climate Together. So this acronym highlights the fact that everyone in our community has a role to play to address the impacts of climate change. So for this overall presentation, we're going to provide information on the project team, talk a bit about our changing climate for those of you who obviously you live it on a daily basis, but let's go ahead and dive into some of the numbers, talk a bit about a project overview, offer up any discussion as well as some next steps in terms of what's going on with the project. So before I proceed, I want to thank the numerous people externally and internally that have been working on this. We have multiple county departments all involved in this. This is an all of government as well as all community sort of endeavor. We have a consulting team that is AECOM working on this. They're in the lower part of the picture here with the representatives that kind of lead that team. And then Jennifer Fioretti, who many of you already know, she is the lead of our office. She's the project director. I'm managing the overall project, and we do have a whole host of people, once again, from the entirety of the county working on this. And this is just a snapshot of just a few of those people who are involved. To further that, we do have our external advisory group that was appointed by the county manager. And then internally, we have representatives that meet on a regular basis from all departments in our interdepartmental working group. And then last but not least, on our external advisory group, I just want to give a heads up. The co-chair for that group is Cindy Lewin. Cindy is the chair for the C2E2, the Climate Change and Environment Energy Commission. Now, climate change impacts the world differently. Depending on where you are in the world, you have to worry about wildfires or floods or heat and so forth. So I'm going to hone in on here in Arlington, what do we have to worry about? So one of the first things is a rising regional temperature. A lot of data on this. This dates back from, on the left-hand side, the late 1800s, the 1870s. The red line denotes the average annual temperature. Back in the 1800s, that was 54 degrees, but it has been steadily climbing. If you draw the plots from year to year, that straight line plot goes all the way up to 60 degrees currently. So that's just very indicative of a continuing rising climate. And why does that extreme heat matter? Well, it impacts us across the board. Even though climate reports may not highlight Arlington County by name, Northern Virginia is right in the crosshairs when it comes to the impacts. This slide goes on to highlight that such extreme heat causes impacts to our roads, our infrastructure, creates public health challenges, as well as challenges to our emergency services people who are already doing a lot of really great work, and this just compounds some of the issues that they have to face. So we're going to pivot from temperature to rainfall. Extreme precipitation happens on a increasingly frequent basis here in Arlington. This map shows the projected increases in days with heavy rainfall, meaning more than 2 inches of rain by the year 2100. So you see a wide swath of the area in which we're located is going to be impacted by this. And that intensifying weather has dramatic concerns. Those of you who were here in 2019, you experienced the rain event that came through. And as I say, it created rivers out of our roads, right? And so I remember being down on Columbia Pike for a meeting and looking out the window, and it was a river cascading along the parked cars that were unfortunately down there at the time, having to endure that. So again, it's interesting to talk about. It's interesting to talk about the statistics, but there are real impacts to people, to businesses, and so forth, and to our community. And so with this intense rainfall, we can't escape that, unfortunately. So the stormwater piping system was built many years ago to varying standards, and much of the system does not meet modern standards from a pipe capacity as well as for overland relief. So what that means is we need to use and design the landscape to allow for overflow to be conveyed safely. Our current program is very focused on providing more capacity where we can, but also providing overland relief. And we do have a project called the Risk Assessment Management Plan tied to Flood Resilient Arlington that is addressing these issues. And this is a point in time for me to say that Climate Action Plan is not about redoing all the great work that the county has already done in terms of flooding and becoming more resilient and so forth. It is gathering all this information, letting people know in one central spot for climate change, how these various pieces, parts play a role in addressing climate change. So we recently developed the risk assessment management plan, and it's modeled where flooding is forecasted to occur if significant storms come our way, and where we need to focus our efforts when it comes to adapting to this new reality brought on by climate change. The climate action plan is not aiming to recreate that wheel. And so we're going to be pointing to that climate action plan and letting people know that these are the resources in order to become more resilient and how to address the issues moving forward. So there's no silver bullet, unfortunately, when it comes to addressing climate change. It takes numerous actions to reduce emissions causing climate change, which is something we call mitigation, and then through adaptation and resilience. Those are the three key areas: mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. We will work to manage the risks associated with those climate change impacts. Those of you who know the climate or the community energy plan, I should say, the CEP that exists right now, this is our WED chart, which talks about greenhouse gas emissions from our baseline year of 2007, dropping down to carbon neutrality, which is what the community had asked for by the year 2050. So it shows that glide path, and the various colors there show the different sectors that are involved in order to go ahead and help us to reach that goal. And just to say that that goal is also in play as part of this discussion. Should it stay 2050? Should it stay carbon neutrality? Should it be a different term? All that is in discussion as part of this overall 18 to 24 month project process. So speaking of that project, pivoting now into the scope of this, I'm going to be providing this slide deck over to Jane. She's going to go ahead and share that out. So a lot of information on here, but just to highlight that our purpose is to go ahead and update that community energy plan through this robust engagement internally as well as externally, getting different perspectives on what should be in that climate action plan, because this plan is going to be looking forward out to the years 2045, 2050. And we want to be not only cognizant of our current issues that we have and impacts we have to deal with, but also on to the future. How do we want to address these various things? So with our process, this is a high-level project timeline showing the steps toward what we aim to be a county board adoption of the new climate action plan. In essence, we're developing our baseline as we speak to know where we're starting from. We have a lot of great activity already to address climate change. Then we're going to conduct a gap analysis. What's missing, right? We're not the only ones in town developing these climate action plans. So let's take the best of the best from around the country and around the world and say, what could be applicable here in Arlington to make us a better community? We'll develop a whole host of actions. We'll prioritize those actions. Our AECOM consultants are familiar with a C40 tool. It's called ASAP. It's a prioritization tool where we import our values and our interests as a community, put those actions in, and then it prioritizes or racks and stacks those various actions, knowing that we don't have all the money in the world and all the time to be able to do everything all at once. So we have to do that prioritization process. And then we wrap that all up in a draft climate action plan. This group, as well as the entire community, will have a chance to say, you didn't hear us, you got to make changes, or yeah, this is what we want as a community, and let's move forward and let's get this adopted and let's move on the implementation phases. So we are engaging with our community in many different ways. We developed an overall stakeholder engagement and communication plan. So we plan for enhanced coordination across departments, as well as with our community stakeholders for that robust and comprehensive engagement effort. We have various phases that are noted here. We just wrapped up phase 1, and we're going to be presenting to Commissioner Sorrell, as well as to the rest of our advisory group at the end of this month in terms of what we heard during that engagement. And that engagement really focused on the visioning, as well as the goal setting, the higher level pieces of what should be in that climate action plan. And again, we're not doing just one event and then walking away. We have numerous events and numerous ways in which we're reaching out to people, in-person events, virtual events. We had a feedback form that hopefully you had an opportunity to opine on and submit on your behalf or on your group's behalf. So this slide lists the various ways and means by which we plan to and currently do engage with the community. And in February, we teamed with our libraries partners to go ahead and run what was a climate and cuisine event. Very well attended, packed house, standing room only in the auditorium at Central Library, plus another 160 people online. So the interest was there, and we were greatly appreciative of all the efforts that led into that. That was our kickoff event. And so we're wrapping up phase one, and now we're pivoting into phase two of our engagement. We're going to be looking a little bit deeper into the plan, from the visioning, from the goals, and now we're going into strategies and action item development. So that's going to be leading us into the summer as well as on into the fall. So in terms of our next steps, this is highlighting the summer and fall activities. We will have workshops. We're going to be reaching out to a variety of other people in our community to conduct roundtable, focus groups, and interviews. Again, to get different perspectives, because we want to leave no stone unturned in terms of understanding from all socioeconomic levels and all different perspectives, what should this climate action plan be? Because at the end of the day, when people see the eventual climate action plan, they should see themselves in that climate action plan. 97% of the greenhouse gas emissions comes not from county government operations and what we're doing in the county as a government, but rather myself, my neighbors, all of us in the room, businesses and so forth. We constitute 97% of those greenhouse gas emissions. So it's imperative that we understand what our role is, what we have the opportunities to go ahead and do, and to not only address climate change, but to make good business sense. I'm a case in point where I took an SUV that was 25 to 30 miles a gallon, traded it in for a plug-in hybrid, and now I'm at 65 miles per gallon. That makes a lot of sense economically, and I'm able to do my share when it comes to addressing climate change as well. Thank you once again for the opportunity for me to present on this. Happy to take any questions to the extent that the chair would like me to go ahead and do so, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Rich. And we do have time for questions and comments.
Thank you for this presentation, extremely informative. I would just offer, as you're kind of planning, during the planning process, the only thing that kind of stood out to me as a potential concern is obviously the acquisition of property in order to effectuate many of the changes that are necessary, and how much of those are going to be carried out through eminent domain type processes, and the potential impact that's going to have on communities of color or lower income, and how they might be displaced. So just recommending that that be part of kind of the strategic review and overview.
I appreciate their comments, wholeheartedly agree with you. And it's, didn't mention this, but with our current community energy plan, I won't speak for what the board is going to direct us to do when it comes to the final climate action plan, but there are 4 lenses through which we're looking at developing programs and implementing those programs. And so in no particular order, economic competitiveness has to be in line, environmental commitment, energy security, and then equity. And we have to do this work in such a way that it is equitable for everybody in our community. It can't be the haves and the have-nots. And so we have programs in place to go ahead and do that, but your point is very well taken, and I will share that with the rest of the team. Thank you.
And McKenna, thank you so much for your presentation, and thank you, Paula, for all your hard work here. I find myself in an interesting intersection between, like, on the forefront of climate change in a way that it was unexpected. I'm a Arlington master naturalist and a park steward of Thrift Hill Park, and we've lost a lot of our overstory trees. And I see trees as part of the mitigation and adaptation plan. So it's like on both sides of the aisle there. With all of the overstory trees we've lost, there's an interesting conversation of what trees we plant now, because the ones that we've always had here in the past aren't tolerating the heat. And so I'm just curious, one, if this is a larger conversation, I'm happy to talk to whoever is an expert in this space, but not all trees are the same. And so how are we as Arlington kind of helping people make the decision on which trees to plant? If you plant a crepe myrtle, it's essentially like planting 2 sticks in the ground. If you plant an oak tree, it's like supports over 500 different types of native insects and things like that. So they're not all the same. I'm curious your thoughts on here and who else I could talk to that's interested in this.
I'd be able to put you in touch with the experts who work on this in our Department of Public Parks and Recreation. And Vincent Verwig comes to mind as the expert that I lean on when it comes to topics like this. And just yesterday, I was talking with Jen Souls, who's part of our core team. She's also, there you go. And so she's in DPR, and she's a great representative to talk to as well. And we were just having this conversation because she was saying, we talk about native trees, but at the end of the day, we have to look at climates to the south of us. We're thinking of Arkansas, for instance. What is climate currently in Arkansas? And what are the trees that are thriving there now? And we look to that to go ahead and make recommendations for the types of trees to plant here now so that they're alive 10, 20, 30 years down the road, right? And so you bring up a great point. And this is one of the beauties of working in Arlington County. And this is what drew me to Arlington County to become an employee 20 plus years ago. I've been with the county over 20 years, started with CPHD, now in the DES and now in the county manager's office. And during my time, I've been able to work together with Mark McCauley in our wonderful economic development group, as well as a host of others throughout all the various departments. And having those experts to lean on and to ask questions of has been fantastic. And that's part of my role in the county manager's office, is to get their perspectives as well as to share with them information across departments and break down the silos that invariably you find in local government. So that's part of my role. And please reach out to me afterwards. Jane has my contact information. It's also in the slide deck. Happy to go ahead and provide you with make virtual connections to go ahead and talk with the people. But Vincent will talk your ear off if you let him when it comes to trees. Great question. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. And I just have to say, thank you, Rich. I have learned so much, including about tree canopies. And I was living in downtown Ann Arbor when the emerald ash borer came through and wiped out every single tree in the downtown area. So yeah, worried about trees too. My background, I did work with in a prior life, I did work with the national labs on helping assess technologies that would be, that had commercial potential. I was managing director for Clean Tech Group, which is now based in San Francisco, and did work with Walmart, John Deere, and Cargill as they were trying to reduce waste and come off the grid. So was particularly interested in this, and it makes me so proud to be an Arlingtonian. When I learned about how long Arlington has been working at this and that they've actually had impact over a number of years. I mean, it was, I worked in 4 major markets, and the amount of work and how proactive Arlington has been and continues to be is exciting. So there were a couple updates at George Mason University I wanted to provide you. One is that, I don't know if you saw in the news, this was just in the last 2 weeks. Mason was named the host of the Virginia Climate Office. So that's really a heat mapping campaign in Northern Virginia, funded by Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions. It's an advocacy group across multiple faiths, and we provide the data for them. A lot of what the climate assessment is doing is publishing data for use by communities so that they can decide what to do. And Mason's been doing this work a long time. It just so happens that the state made an investment and said this will be the Virginia Climate Office. And by the way, there were only 2 states that didn't have a climate office until now, and Virginia was one of them. So we're catching up a little bit. More than 10 years ago, there was one that was hosted by UVA and it went away. And so now the governor has reinstated it. We do work in partnership with the other universities in the state to also provide data to them for research as well. And then you've probably seen the president a little over a year ago announced 6 grand challenges that Mason was working on. One is specific to climate resilience. We're working with the insurance industry to help set up research labs for forward-looking data. There's a lot of science on what is likely to happen, but not as much on specifically what has happened in particular areas, oddly enough. So there's also an NSF ART grant that we received. ART is an acronym for something, and that's run by our Institute for Sustainable Earth. So there's a course producing cost data products on flood resilience For example, so educating students on that, and they actually do projects. An example was Dominion Hills Park, from 4 Mile Run park flooding and identifying broken infrastructure, and topography for equipment and like playground equipment and where it could be, where it could end up, and, as a couple of examples. There's another one on micrometeorological modeling, hyperlogical street analysis. For example, the Pentagon, giving solutions for green roof solar panels. I learned that the Pentagon is one of the hottest places in Arlington. What it's worth. And then we also have been conducting on Mason Square in front of the Fuse Building. They've been taking temperature reads in different areas on the plaza over days, and then they reported back to us, to all the people who work there, and it's fascinating. The wild swings, even just from going under the tree canopy area to the overhead roof area that has been provided. And then another class that's being offered, and again, they do practical work through these classes, is, it's experiential learning, is on transportation and how it's impacted by flooding and heat and how people move through the region. So transportation patterns can significantly change during weather events, like not walking to the bus, for example, and some people have to leave their houses if they don't have air conditioning, and how that gets impacted. So those are just a few examples. I hope to keep you more updated, and maybe the next time I'll just share as reports come out and share with the group.
Thank you, Paula.
Yeah, I do want to, Meredith, you were going to say something.
I have a question, but you go.
I yield to the
No, sir.
gentleman.
No.
I just want to say real quick, this is all great. And, the board, thank you. Just a few things. As I listen to everyone here, I think we need to take into account, there's a piece with climate action, environmental, I call it environmental climate justice, the whole gamut, that we really need to think about how we educate and inform, not just the community, but also the business. There's a win-win, right, for businesses who really understand environmental impact and building this level of resiliency within their work model. But, Katie and Janetta, I think you make some good points. Historically, communities, even businesses, low-end businesses, don't really understand the full gamut of climate action. And so something I've talked to Jennifer Ferretti about, and this, I've done it from the dais, is, invoking some more intentionality with some metrics of who we're talking to, who we're speaking with, so we can ensure that we're not doing like just this top level conversation, and that we're doing some more co-creation in this modeling when it comes to environmental, I call it environmental climate justice and climate action. You may also know, Paula, that, I've had some relations with back in the day, and they're doing some really good work that can help with outreach. So I'm glad that Jim, you're his partner there. But you should also know that on July 1st, our governor did sign back on, and we're back with Reggie. Who knows what Reggie is? Of course I do. The regional greenhouse piece. So, the goal is to reduce greenhouse gases and carbon by 2037. So that was a good move. Look, sometimes you get into these spaces, y'all, and I'm just going to keep it 100. You have conversations on environmental and climate justice, or just, and it goes right by some folks' head. I think we really need to be very attentive, even in how we build and businesses that are coming here and teaching them. Because a few weeks ago, it was 100 some degrees. Now, I spent about 3 years out in 29 Palms, California, but I'll tell you, that was years ago. But I'll tell you, when that heat hit me a few weeks ago, it felt different. Felt different on my skin for a whole different host of reasons. So just want to share for everyone in here, don't take this brief for granted, and really kind of lean into it and see what you can do within your relative spaces. Okay. Thanks, Nick.
We're about to have it again tomorrow, I think Thursday.
Oh, no, I'm going to the pool.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Rich?
Just one quick.
Yes.
So, and also sort of building JD, on what you shared. Rich, I'm assuming that, let's say that the chamber is going to be consulted and bids and small businesses are going to be consulted as well too, as we think about building resiliency in our commercial areas, and the cost to business of an action. So I'm assuming that that's happening and delighted by that. But going back to slide number 12, when it was the carbon neutral target and the different aspects of how we go and get to a net zero by 2050. For this group, I'm just curious about sort of discussions around how do we get at hard to abate sectors of our economy. And to that extent, a big focus of this group has been how do we adapt vacant commercial buildings for more productive uses, both in terms of providing more hospitable climates to small businesses, increasing residences for Arlingtonians so they can afford to live here and love where they live, as we all do. But also just with the older commercial buildings that are sitting vacant, I can only imagine that there is a cost in terms of the climate footprint. And as we're thinking of adapting and reusing these buildings, it's an opportunity to both increase housing, support small businesses, but increase sort of maybe like green canopies or some way to incorporate more climate resilient, sustainable business infrastructure or building infrastructure. And I wonder if you could just speak a little bit to that, if that's part of the discussion.
It is part of the discussion. Thank you very much for the comment and the question. Three things I'll highlight. There are many things that are being done throughout the county, but three that I'll target. Green Building Incentive Program. Hopefully all of you are familiar with it as part of the Admin Reg 4.1 site planning process, both for new buildings as well as renovating and updating site plans for existing buildings. So if you're not familiar with that, the Rethink Energy team, Mark, Kate, others can go ahead and fill you on the details of that. But there are opportunities to get, I call it a trade-off where you get additional density in exchange for a higher performing building. I will leave it at that. And so that is one opportunity. Also, Jennifer Fiore was up here a few months back and talked about the Corporate Climate Leaders Program that we're working together with. I see John Musso here. Appreciate his work on the advisory group as well as on the executive committee for that group, for the Corporate Climate Leaders. And we're developing that program. It is an opportunity for us to reach out to property owners, far and wide, to go ahead and developers to talk about what their pain points are and how we as a county can support them and help them and address their needs and their interests. So that's one other thing. And then the third one is the Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy Financing Program, also known as CPACE. We were the first in the Commonwealth to develop a CPACE program. Now CPACE is in many jurisdictions all throughout the Commonwealth. I will point to one project that is a sizable project, but I think very impactful and meaningful to show the opportunities that CPACE has to offer relatively lower capital to insert into your capital stack for your financing for your project, and at the same time to help address the environmental issues that are being shown in your project. Over in DC, there's a project called the Geneva Project, and they use CPACE financing to the tune of $465 million, inserted that into their capital stack to go ahead and make that project work for them and pencil out and to move forward with it. So again, our Rethink Energy team is currently managing and running that project. I helped and worked together with others to develop the program close to 10 years ago. Happy to talk with anyone about that, or I can pitch you to our experts on the AIR team and our consultant working on that. If you have a project where you have equity, let's say it's at 10%, you want to drop that down to 8%, insert CPACE financing into that to help make that happen and to help improve your bottom line. CPACE is there, and that goes for existing buildings as well as for new buildings. Hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Rich. Just a quick question. So for next steps, looks like the next 3 months, 3.5 months, we list workshops, roundtables, focus groups, and interviews. Have those groups already been put together, or is there an opportunity for folks here or to leverage their networks to participate, or what should we be doing?
So we are reaching out. So for instance, John Musso is working together with others to develop a business roundtable. And so we encourage everyone in this room to go ahead and participate. Have you talked with John about that opportunity? And we are looking to do that in the next couple of months. July, August is our target timeframe for that roundtable. We have other roundtables with our developers and working together with Faizan at Penzance, who's our representative on the advisor group, to go ahead and pull that together. So if you're interested in that, reach out to Faizan with Penzance or to me if you have any questions about that. Other focus groups with our utilities and with others. We have one focused on equity that we're going to going ahead and do. So if there's any interest that in the things that I've talked about that spark an interest, you're like, I'd like to participate in one of your roundtables, we will invariably find a place for you and find a roundtable that meets your interests and give you a chance to have a voice. And keep in mind that these roundtables are not the only opportunity for you to have that voice. We will be having draft documentation, draft information up online and sending out to this commission as well as to all of the other commissions, email updates and saying, here's an opportunity for you to take a review of this, chime in, and we want to offer you the opportunity, whether it's virtual, online, or in person, to go ahead and to have that voice, because it's important for us, again, to create that climate action plan that resonates with the entire community.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time today. Turn it over to Honor.
Wonderful. Well, good morning, everybody. I think I'm gonna go and stand there because I think it's more respectful than trying to get here. So I just have to say, what an inspiring morning already. I grew up in a community in Scandinavia, very similar to the values of Arlington. And so it's like a circle coming back to me. I've lived here in the United States for about 22, 24 years now. So first generation immigrant myself. And here in the DC region about 22 years. And I gotta tell you, I've told many of you in this room, my team, I've told them it would be really, really difficult for me to go anywhere else in the United States and move my family, move my life there other than the greater Washington, DC area and Northern Virginia in particular. And let me tell you why. It's the life of consequence that we all live here. We have companies that execute on missions of consequence. We have communities like Arlington that have visions of consequence on sustainability, equity, and inclusion and connection. And it's extraordinary what we have built here. And I'm saying we because I've been here long enough now that I can say I was. But I'm just very, very honored to be here with the commission this morning, board member Spain, chair, and our many, many partners in the community, our bids. I haven't met with all of the CEOs yet, so I'm like, oh, where's Nanette? I'm trying to see where, there she is. And then my incredible leadership team meeting, here, Mark, Ifiak, Kate, Deirdre, Tara. Oh my gosh, you're here. I thought you were at the conference. I'm sorry. Emily, who am I missing? Brandon. Brandon is our acting business investment director right now, so please send him good vibes because there's lots coming his way right now, and our team here. So without taking too much time today, I really want to hear from all of you after I've just shared some thoughts to begin the conversation of how can I, with the assistance of all of you, the community, businesses, residents, nonprofits, our team here can help build the next version of Arlington. If you want to go to the next slide right here, what I would say is, and I love Maya Angelou, one of my favorite people on this planet that lived. It's really easy for us to all look at, Arlington, Northern Virginia right now and say, this is the best place to be. That's what I just said, right? But what has it taken us to get here? And what is it going to take us to get us to the next iteration? Because we are in a transformational moment right now. Arlington was a county of 12 farms, I believe, 100 years ago. Think about that. 100 years is like, not that long ago. You know, there was no airport. Somebody designed the airport in their minds 75 years ago in Dulles. Look what's happened with the Metro Rail, what we're dealing with today. It's extraordinary. So I think this is the moment really where we need leadership across the community to look at where will we go next? Because we will not have this if we don't do, take bold moves right now. So if you go to the next slide, this is nothing new to you guys. This is why I'm here. This is why I believe I can be part of this larger group here working on some of the biggest challenges that are facing really humanity today. We have the changes in our built environment. We have aging buildings. We have aging ways that we're looking at those buildings and when it comes to ways of working. We have new demands for how people want to live and where they want to live and how they want to move into the future. We have constraints when it comes to capital. Capital is moving in a different way today than it was about 2 years ago. So there are a lot of constraints that we're experiencing at multiple levels. We're obviously competing to keep our people here. We're competing for investment from businesses to come here so that we can keep this quality of life that we have here today. So it is a very, very constrained situation, not just for Arlington, but I tell you, I speak with my colleagues, thought leaders across the globe on a daily, and they're dealing with these same constraints in environments like we have here. So this is not an isolated kind of situation. I talked to some incredible people in Seoul, South Korea, not North Korea. That was a little Freudian. All the time because they are already thinking probably 100 years ahead. Their planning horizons are 100 years. And obviously that's not what we're going to do here, but they're thinking about beyond smart cities, for example, beyond sustainability. How can we use AI to build cities that work for everybody and provide opportunities and access? So we have a moment here to really capitalize on what we don't know and find out what we need to know and then really move to the future. I would say also that, the big elephant in the room is the commercial tax base, obviously. We are in a similar situation to our other urban environments here in Northern Virginia. Our, tax revenues are constrained and we need to look at how do we flip that script on building that revenue base up, but also look at how do we structure the revenue base for the future. And I commend the board member Spain here and your colleagues on taking some bold moves recently in a difficult situation. I also want to commend you on bold moves you're taking on the real estate side. It is not easy, but right now Arlington is actually leading in some of that space. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. Next slide. So go big or go home, right? I think that's why I'm here. And so I'm looking all of you to support me in this. What is the biggest competitive advantage for the future of communities is to be adaptive. The changes in technology, we thought internet changed everything. We think AI is changing everything. Quantum is going to change everything plus then some. So the change is going to be now constantly 3-year, 5-year cycles when it comes to technology, and that will impact everything around us, right? Changes in how we work, what the demands of the communities are going to change constantly. We're already experiencing changes in the built environment. And I'm looking at Mark all the time because, he's our secret weapon here at the EDA working on those projects. But that will also accelerate because there will be requirements from companies that are going to be something we can't even imagine today. Data centers, once quantum hits, they're not going to be those massive data centers anymore out there. I'm not going to go any more into that right now, but more to come on that one. So to be adapted and future ready is going to be the key to our success in 10 years and forward to come. And I really love Arlington County government's vision statement where it says in the end, opportunity for all. And I think so many places don't include that in their vision. They just want to build great quality of life and so forth. But this says for all. I think that is very important when we look at how do we build our economy for the future, because Arlington is a extremely diverse community. We have assets and environments, culture, arts, even our tourism economy is very different from most places in this region. And we need to preserve that because we do need to have opportunity for all. So Like I said, this is my ask of you today, poke holes in this, and hopefully I can have you on my side to work on this together. Go to the next slide, please. And in order for us to get there, you know, you have heard Kate about 6 months ago talk about economic development evolution and where we are today versus where were in the, 100 years ago. We're kind of in the economic development 3.0, which is really building community, building places that are resilient, not just, attracting jobs and investment, right? That was the 1.0. I would argue we are beyond that now. What I would tell you is that the way we are going to build the future economy is through opportunity infrastructure. And this is something where Arlington can absolutely lead in the urban environment and economic development. It is really looking at how do we build the capacity to not only bring in investment and secure resiliency for the tax base, but also build it from within. A national IQ is a great example where we're moving in the right direction, but we are going to need a lot more than that to, move the needle. We are operating in a very constrained budget, the county as a whole. I look at things as holistically as a system. Economic development is a red thread that goes throughout that entire system. We're not here as a separate department. We are you. We all are part of economic development infrastructure, this opportunity infrastructure I talk about. So for example, our department obviously has experienced some losses when it comes to staffing and resources for this fiscal year. However, I would say don't despair. I come from a neighboring jurisdictions. They're not immune to this either. What we need to do is we have assets here within this organization that we can realign. We can realign them with the entire system outside of this agency, and we can do even bigger things than what we have. However, if the needle starts moving, we will need to look at how do we resource adequately for us to really catapult the growth and what we need to do to build the economy of the future. So I'm not going to go and read you all this. You'll get this PowerPoint. Jane will send it to you so we can talk about it. The next slide, please. So this is the question I get most for the past 2 weeks that I've been here. So just bear with me. It's 2 weeks. So that's why it's a little bit high level right now. I'm an action person. I believe in relentless execution and high standards for what we do. So that will be a follow-up to this one. But here are really the strategic priorities that I believe that us as an organization, working with the commission, working with the board, as well as the county agencies and the community, will need to focus on in the next 1 to 5 years. We really need to start reimagining the built environment. Again, the board has been very brave in the moves that you have made for Arlington to do adaptive reuse projects and so forth. That is something that our entire region is behind on. And Arlington is leading. Arlington is leading in this. It is a game changer when we talk to businesses that are looking to invest here because they see that we understand the requirements have changed. Capital is constrained, as you know, but we need to look at how can we keep moving this forward because that is the only way we can create places and spaces where these companies are wanting to invest and where the members of our new members of our community that are going to move from outside are going to want to work and live. So that is going to be a huge priority, probably top one priority for me and the agency to work with you all and the board moving forward. And again, we are leading and we could lead the entire nation in showing how to do this next phase right. So I'm really excited about that opportunity. Aligning the entire system, I talked about that already, so I'm not going to go into that more detail right now, but I've had many conversations with many of you in this room already. I have about 100 conversations scheduled over the next 100 days. So, if I don't instantly respond to you, I usually try to respond within 15 minutes, but sometimes it might not work because I'm talking to somebody and I want to pay attention to them. I need to understand what are those pitfalls, what are their opportunities in this community for us to move the needle, not only on the built environment, but the positioning for competitiveness as well as invested in talent, access, and experience. So those are the three things outside of the built environment that we really need to focus on over the next 12 to 24 months, I would say. Again, the budgets are constrained and resources are constrained. However, in order for us to compete for the investment that exists outside that we can attract here, we need to up our game. We're moving from marketing to influence. We have incredible team of marketers embedded here in the AED. And there's my Fairfax slip a little bit there. And we do have amazing marketers across the community. So we need to make sure that we align that system and start elevating the Arlington story. Now, I'm not just saying, here's Anna saying this or, somebody saying this. It is the businesses and the people that are here that need to carry that story. That is one of the most powerful ways that we can influence site selectors, brokers, the investment for CEOs. And it has worked very well across this region in the past. And I'm excited to bring that expertise here to the AED. I will tell you, I've already had several media interviews about that. And what I do is I send a company to them to talk to. It is not for me to talk to them. It is an Arlington company to tell the story. And there's a CEO in Seoul that will listen to them. So there's a lot of work we're going to go do on that side. We will be doing some studies to look at what the site selection community thinks about Arlington. Right now, a lot of the larger deals like Amazon, other things like that similar range are in manufacturing. So we need to understand the realities here and what the expectations from that community are. So there may be deals that are smaller and there are more of them that requires more resources. So I'm excited to share with you more about that once we're finished with that. And then the last one here on the bottom is invest in talent, access, and experience. This is the second huge competitive advantage that Arlington has and Northern Virginia as a whole has is the access to top talent. And I think we have still not done as good of a job as we could as a region and as a locality of selling that talent access. So I'm super excited to continue our partnership with George Mason, have been working with George Mason for years, also Virginia Tech, Marymount, and all the 60 plus universities and colleges that are here. I work with all of them to really just, capitalize on that. The other piece is that one that's very unique to Arlington is the experience. So I wouldn't say tourism, arts, culture, it is experience. When you come to Arlington, you feel different. You feel different when you're here. Virginia Living, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, our amazing team and with our partnership support from National Landing Bid, got some amazing coverage in Virginia Living, and you guys all need to read that article. It talks about our city vibes and quiet corners. That is what the Gen Alphas want to live in and work in. Not Gen Z, Gen Alpha. So we're looking that way now. So that is something very unique that we need to start capitalizing on and making sure that our system is aligned to really enhance not only to have access to those experiences for companies and talent that moves here, but also make sure that our graduating kids in this region stay here because we're hemorrhaging people out of this area. So next slide, please. And again, I'm not going to go into this any more detail, but you have the bold vision, but really what you care about here is action. So in the first year, we're going to align the system and work really hard working with the board as well as the commission here and our stakeholders to really be on the same page and start executing relentlessly. And year 2 to 5 really should start seeing those transformative outcomes, which we will talk about a little bit later because we obviously don't have time to wait for 10 years for those to happen. I've been very hard for the past 2 weeks that I've been here to really see heightened interest from the industry, in particular heightened industry from our higher education partners, our community partners, actually residents directly, in wanting to really look forward to what will we become while we maintain special Arlington. So I'm excited about that. Next slide. And with that, before I take questions, I wanted to just give you some updates on what's been going on. And again, bear with me because I've been here 2 weeks. So I have all of my experts here and Kate is here. If you have any questions that I might not be able to answer, but if you go to the next slide, I wanted to just highlight some pretty incredible wins and momentum that the business investment side of our operation here has experienced. We had 2 transformative projects. The innovative defense technologies expansion might have been mentioned at a previous meeting, but we had a notable win with Spatial Front relocating their headquarters here from Maryland. This is an interesting proposition for you all to think about. They moved from Maryland. Is that a plus or a minus? It is a plus for Arlington. It is a minus for Montgomery County. It is kind of a zero-sum game for the region. So I think we need to start opening our thinking here. I don't see us competing with any of our local jurisdictions. Not Fairfax, not DC, not Montgomery County. We are one region, we're one workforce, we're one economy, and we are, the 46th largest economy in the world. As Northern Virginia, we are in the top 10 for globally as a Greater Washington. We need to work together to build this economy. And I have great relationships with all my counterparts across the region. They're very excited to do this together because they're facing the same challenges. So just think about that when you start seeing these hopefully new announcements coming out that we're really trying to attract new outside of this region. Obviously, our ecosystem momentum is really, really building right now. Over 100 million in VC funding in Arlington companies. Here are just a couple of examples. And then as a big news that you probably saw, AD was able to secure nearly 4 million in state funding for national IQ with our partners. This is huge, everybody. Like, this is groundbreaking for the region. And on top of that, we were able to secure some additional funding to address the next problem that we're talking about. So if you go to the next slide, talking about real estate. So I said Arlington's made some bold moves. Arlington continues to make some bold moves in this space, as you can see from here. And I'm not going to go into the details so we can answer questions if you have them after. But what I want to draw your attention to is really this market moment and strategic planning for this current fiscal year. We secured funding from the state to do a statewide study, actually, for Northern Virginia, the Greater Richmond region, as well as the Hampton Roads area, on what's happening with commercial real estate and where we need to be headed. This is huge because one of the priorities that we're going to have, and I've been working on this for the past several years as part of the region, is how do we get the state to support us in transforming our built commercial environment? The state needs to be our partner in this. So how can we secure incentives and other things from the state for us to do these transformational projects? Because right now, Arlington is leading. That means we're kind of doing it alone. So the state, we are funding the state. Northern Virginia is funding the state. We're, almost half of the revenues to the state. So we're really looking forward to their partnership. So we're working on the study over the next 12 months. We're doing some internal analysis as well, and then reassess to stakeholder engagement, really put together a strategy for board's consideration and discussion on where to move next. Because there are requirements from some of these employers that are doing technologies of the future, even others that are in other spaces like sustainability, clean energy, that are very interested in being here, that we right here probably don't even understand or know yet. We don't even know what the jobs are going to be like in 5 years. So these studies are going to be extremely helpful in getting us prepared for the future and take some of those bold moves that we have been doing so far here in Arlington.
Can I chime in?
Yeah,
really quick?
yeah.
Just to stick on this, because I think most people know I love this chart looking at this. But I think, the commercial vacancy working group, when it was formed and then when everything went into place in late 24, I think speaking for that group, this is really exactly what we were hoping for. A couple things to point out. Number one, and Mark, please correct me if I say anything wrong here, but the numbers up there do not include every development or redevelopment. So it doesn't include like the Holiday Inn, for example. It doesn't include what's happening in Clarendon with a full redevelopment, but this is the expedited program. And that's almost about 5% of the office inventory. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that each one of them will come out of the inventory. What we're starting to see now as time goes on, some of the projects have started, I think 2 or 3 of them. Whereas there was one recent sale where there was an approved project, there's a new owner and they're saying, hey, I might leave this as office. And seeing those different approaches and strategies probably is a sign of a more resilient or at least, optimistic economy. So number one, I think overall a really good sign. If we saw numbers, or at least in my opinion, there were 2 or 3 times this, that would be really worrisome, because that would be a sign that the investment community does not see a future within Arlington. But the fact that it's significant but not growing so exponentially, that's a really good thing. And again, we keep hearing, all about shortages. I mean, that's potentially almost 1,800 units and hotel rooms. So I just wanted to stop, kind of put a little bit of framework around it. It's great to see where this is common as it's, over time. I think if we're here in a year, it's probably not going to be double. It's probably going to be, the curve will probably start to flatten a little bit. But again, my opinion is that is a good thing.
So thank you for that. And anybody in the team want to?
Well, I'll just give you an example of that. Is the GSA site that's on the board agenda for July. That came forward as a site plan.
Right.
Economic change now conversion. They looked at office there over the years as well. So I agree that was the goal, wasn't to sort of just get office out of service, it was provide another investment option through which the community can then look and sort of say, what's the best use of that asset? So I think agree that if we had too much, we'd be a little nervous of no one wants to work here. I think we've taken the right buildings out of service, and I think there's a couple more, but I think you're right. It's probably going to flatten out as we've taken the low hanging fruit off the table.
Excellent. Any other questions on this? Or we went. Okay, so our visitor and tourism sector, which Emily is just, the team is just rocking it over there. I can't even keep up with them. 2 weeks I've been here. You guys have an extraordinary asset here, combining economic development, kind of the traditional economic development functions, with tourism that only exists in one other jurisdictions in this region outside of Arlington. And I will tell you, it's an extraordinary competitive advantage and asset. So I appreciate the county being thoughtful about that. But this is, follows the trend that you heard at the last meeting. Our revenues are up by 8%. I believe at the last meeting, whether we're presenting, was 6%. So we're going the right direction. And I think it's just very extraordinary for the May 23rd to 30th week, 31%, year over year increase in revenue is just extraordinary. And I mentioned the Virginia Living feature about Arlington and kind of the city vibes, quiet corners. I will encourage all of you to reach out because, yeah, awesome. Because those are the kind of elements of this community that we need to really start playing into, not only just for our visitors and conventions and tourism, but also on the business investment, attraction, retention, and expansion area, as well as talent attraction, which I'm not going to talk about talent attraction today or retention, because that's something that AD hasn't done really in the past, but it is something we absolutely need to focus on. So, but it is really a kind of a circle or a pie where you have this experience economy, you have the business growth, business expansion, as well as talent attraction and retention that I'm looking at as a holistic system that we will be working to have a strategy around moving forward. Slide. And then lastly, one thing also that I think AD historically hasn't been hyper focused on is economic competitiveness. Right now, as I started with, it is going to be the key thread that will go throughout our entire operation here, as well as our partnerships across Arlington community, as well as the region. And we're really seeing some momentum. And I do want to point out, these are great about the state level, but I got to tell you, Arlington being named one of America's best cities for small businesses and entrepreneurs is incredible. We're number 8 by this study, which is, there were no other, regional, cities in there. So we're the only one across the nation from this area. And I want to recognize our small business and biz launch team, Tara. They do a great work, but this is a community outcome. This is directly a community outcome from chambers and other players who all work on not only small businesses, but then those who will become the entrepreneurial engines of our economy, and they grow into 3,000 employee corporations later on. So don't discount that, because this is something that those large corporations like Nestle, I'm just using Nestle as an example because they're here, look at, because they want to be in an environment that supports businesses at all levels. So this is excellent. We were very happy to see that Virginia is rising back to number 3 at the CNBC Best States for Business rankings. Northern Virginia drives a lot of that. I will tell you the federal government impacts have really hit Virginia hard in these rankings, and it's very unfortunate because, as we recognize, there have been severe impacts to Northern Virginia. Luckily, our region is very resilient. We have seen, talent move from one place to the other, not necessarily leave in masses like we thought. Our unemployment rate just dropped to 2.9%, which is lowest. Arlington is the lowest in the region right now. So we are showing incredible resilience. So in my opinion, if you look at the breakdown of those rankings, we should be number 1. The biggest news is that we went ahead of Texas again. That is a huge thing for us, for the larger industries that are creating thousands of jobs, because a lot of them are going to Texas. So them to see that Virginia is on top, we can capitalize on. And obviously, Virginia was ranked again as the nation's number 1 customized workforce training program, which Virginia Economic Development Partnership runs. And we will work very closely with them to make sure that whenever that is needed as a competitive advantage for us to attract investment here, we will be able to tap into that, have great relationship with the state, and they will continue to be a great partner. And I know that was a lot of talking for having been here just 2 weeks, but just wanted to share some of my way of thinking and kind of where we're headed. I'm looking forward to receiving feedback and collaboration and sitting down with, I'm hoping, all of you one-on-one for coffee or just a chat to see where your heads are and why you're in the commission. We're looking to collaborate with you as a thought partner, and obviously with the board, working very closely moving forward to execute on their priorities. But I think there's just a momentum that is undeniable right now. And it is very hard to see it in the grand scheme of things, of the difficulty we're facing. But if we keep hyper focused on things that can move the needle, which I'm going to talk more about in the coming months, not weeks. I move fast, but not that fast. I think we can lead as an urban economy, how United States is looking at the future, as well as an engine with our partners here in Northern Virginia and Greater Washington. So thank you for letting me kind of talk through my thinking, and happy to take any questions if
Thank you. We've got time for a couple questions.
Yeah.
Please.
Outstanding presentation for just being here 2 weeks. I really appreciate your systems perspective and you opening with technology, AI and quantum. Where do you see technology fitting into your 4 priorities, your strategic priorities?
So technology is over all that. I mean, it's so here's, let me put it this way. So the market potential for AI is about 15 trillion by 2035. We're going to go get our piece of that. That is, that's just the technology. No, I'm telling you, it's just technology. It's like the internet, as you know, it is not a sector. I think that's where we can lead. We can take a systems approach of becoming the place where innovators want to have a mission-driven impact and who are, executing on missions of consequence, whether they're nonprofits or they're, supporting, the space exploration or whatever, and they're using AI, as a through thread. We are going to be the place. That's the 15 trillion opportunity. Same thing with quantum. I'm working with George Mason on a project on one of those grand challenges. I've been working with them for almost 2 years now, to have something transformative come to Fuse when it comes to quantum. And that is on the workforce development side, because quantum is going to be a through thread of everything, just like AI. I personally believe Q-Day is going to happen in the next 5 years. That means that is going to become the norm, and we need to be prepared. We're in the center of the largest cybersecurity infrastructure in the world, with over 600 cyber companies in this region. Quantum is a through line there where they have to prepare, and every company has to prepare for security once quantum becomes the norm. Space sector, for example, a lot of entrepreneurs coming this way, a lot of people with one person or two. And, all those technologies converge space, when it comes to, obviously security, but also commercial space. So I think we need to think about it from the context of technology is an enabler. Technology will enable Arlington's next chapter. We will not go after sector of AI or quantum or, whatever, or we're not going to build our government based on how we use AI or whatever. It is an enabler of us to build the economy of the future. So that's why I don't even mention technology, because that's like the through line. I have to create I'm going to create a graphic on that. Thank you for asking.
Yes, JD.
Yeah, I promise you I won't be at too many of these meetings because y'all got it. But I want to say a few things. One, Kate, really thank you for, as our managing director here, and what a wonderful presentation. Many of us on the board had an opportunity to kind of think about economic development, and stated before I came onto the board, economic security was one of my signature issues. I will say this, this is a takeaway. You said a few things. You believe in relentless execution. And I'm going to hold you to that. And you said you're an action person. I think a lot of times folks get up and they say the right things, but your accolades precede you. And I know that we have, and if you go back and look, Arlington we are the smartest county region in the nation. So guess what, folks? Failure is not an option. And we have to move at the pace of need. And so I appreciate you coming on board. I appreciate your network. And we're going to go out and get our piece of the pie. Thank you very much.
Great presentation. Thank you again. So just wrapping up here, is there any new business that anybody would like to bring up? And if not, so as far as a couple announcements, as usual, we will have an August recess, so no meeting in August. However, we are working on, I think, final details for our annual field trip. Can I say where?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to be going down to the new Virginia Tech campus for our September meeting. Just for some of the newer folks on the group, last year we, Paula and team were kind enough to host it at George Mason, and 2 years ago in 24 we were down at HQ2. So we've got a lot of positive feedback from getting out and seeing those projects. So we'll probably do a presentation from some of the folks down there, and then we'll do some of our usual programming. Okay, so with that, thank you all for coming. Appreciate the great meeting.